Hello, everybody that's here live and watching the replay. I am going to start by introducing myself so you know who this crazy looking girl is sitting at her cottage for the summer. I was saying to Amber, this is the best my hair gets in the summertime. So hello, my name is Sabrina Greer. I am an author first. What am I now? I'm like a 10-time best-selling author, which is like the weirdest thing to say out loud. I am also an international publisher, a book publisher, and a mentor and coach to emerging authors and writers and creative entrepreneurs. So that's sort of my handle, if you will. But I say author first because I started where so many people start, and that is just trying to figure out how to share my story, how to put all of these things that are in here into here, your computer, or, old school paper, if that's how you prefer to write. And it's been a journey to get here. So I published my first book with a traditional publisher, and I'll explain what the types of publishing are in a few minutes. But I published my first book with a traditional publisher and very quickly recognized that traditional publishing was not for me because of intellectual property issues. And it just wasn't authentic to me. There was something that felt off. So I self-published my second book and recognized a lot of gaps in that side of the industry too. So I'll explain a little bit about publishing. So traditional publishing is like your Penguin Random House, your HarperCollins, the big ones that you recognize. So the pros to that are obvious. They have huge marketing budgets. They can potentially get you on Oprah and all that fun stuff. But the downside is that they own the intellectual property rights to your work. So when you're publishing a nonfiction book, memoir, a business book, whatever that is, it's not ideal for someone else to own your intellectual property, because then you, as the author, as the creator of this mental capacity, beautiful work that you've put into the world, now have to get permission from somebody else to use that for other formats in your life and your business. Whether that is, a course that maybe you want to create, a coaching business, a public speaking gig, you have to get permission from someone else. That wasn't for me. So I left the traditional publishing world. And like I said, I self-published. So the pros and cons with self-publishing are essentially the same. You have 100% control. But that also means you have to figure out 100% of everything on your own. It's highly unsupportive. It's a highly lonely process. So that's why hybrid publishing was born. So hybrid publishing is where you combine those things, and it essentially translates to author funded. So the author invests in their work to hire a team of professionals to publish their book. The problem with hybrid publishing is it's uncredited. So there's anyone could start a hybrid publishing house right now. So it's hard to find reputable ones that can suit all of your needs. A lot of these hybrid publishers don't have an editorial process. They don't have quality control. They don't have memberships and associations with bigger distribution houses. So it's really just paying an agency to do what you could very easily do on your own. So very careful of what you're getting yourself into, because there's these things called vanity press that have popped up, which are literal like publishing houses with a stamp, and they go, there you go, published, and they don't edit your work and they don't help with the design, and you basically have to do everything on your own. So my legal team and I are currently in the process of trademarking blended publishing, because to me, hybrid is like a weird car or maybe some kind of crazy looking animal. Hybrid didn't feel like home to me in my publishing house. So I started my publishing house out of the necessity to create something that didn't exist. It didn't exist. What I wanted was a supportive community. What I wanted was professionalism. I wanted things to be done at extremely high quality. I wanted to make sure that my authors felt supported in the process. So I started my company really out of the necessity to publish my own books. But of course, through the process, people came to me and said, well, if you could do it for yourself, you could do it for me. And here we are. So we're in the process of making this blended publishing a thing. And it's so important that when you're blending the best of both worlds. So what blended means is we have traditional distribution, which means all of our books are at 39,000 retailers across the globe, including Amazon Global and, Chapters and Barnes and Noble and Target and all of the big ones. But that author has creative control, and they also own the intellectual property rights to their work. So those are the important things you want to look for if you're interested in publishing a book. But what we're here today to discuss is why you should write a book as an entrepreneur, and how a book can support your business as an entrepreneur, or even how you can start a business based after your book. There's so many ways that it becomes this cycle of support and beauty and synergy when you're an author and an entrepreneur, an authorpreneur. So we'll start with what I call, oh, sorry, Amber, you've got your sound on.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. It sounded all fuzzy for a sec. So we're going to start talking about the 4 C's, because to me, it's the most important part. And it really creates this like visual of why it's so important. So the first C is catharsis. So we all know that writing is cathartic. It's therapeutic. It helps us get the squirrely stuff out of our brain into a computer, onto paper. So it's good for business because you're clearing out the ideas, because as creative entrepreneurs, we all have ideas, constant ideas, ones that like wake you up in the middle of the night. Write it down. We've all probably at some point learned how to brain dump. Brain dumping is an extremely effective way of getting information out of your brain and freeing up real estate in your mind. So that is the catharsis of it. Yes, it's therapeutic if you're sharing a personal story, or if you're writing about an incident that happened in your life. It can heal trauma. It can do all of these things. But more importantly, from a business perspective, it helps really refine your thought process and get all of those things out of here into here. So that's the brain dumping process. So catharsis, number 1. Number 2 is connection. So writing a book connects you to a much greater audience than you would ever have access to. Yes, social media is all over the place. Yes, we can like access with technology more people than we've ever been able to access in history of time. However, having a book, it allows people to connect with you and in an authentic way, because they're buying your book. If they're buying your book, they're essentially saying, I want something from you. I want to be in your space. I want to learn from you. I want to grow from you. So it works as essentially like a funnel, a lead magnet, all of these terms that entrepreneurs use, right? A book is absolutely the best lead magnet you could ever have, because it is a $20 tangible product that people all over the world could buy that would never even have heard of you or been able to access you otherwise. So it connects you to a greater audience. Scene number 3, contribution. Your book is a legacy. It doesn't disappear after a certain amount of time. You can't get hacked like Instagram, right? You don't like, oh shoot, that save didn't change, or that didn't happen, right? So like your website, I don't know if this is resonating for people, but all of these things have happened to me in the technology world. It's like, oh, all that work just disappeared. Oh, I forgot what I wrote about and that blog post deleted, or, my Instagram got hacked and I lost 10,000 followers, or these things happen in technology, and it's a computer. A book is your legacy. It is there forever. It's there for generation after generation to read and enjoy. And it's such a powerful thing, because imagine, in 30 years from now, your children's children picking up your book going, oh, this changed me. And that can happen forever, right? You could be 100 years old and getting messages from, young adults saying that your book was that thing that changed their mind or changed their world or changed their energy. It is such a powerful legacy, such a powerful contribution that you're giving to the world, writing a book. So think about that. When you have a business, or when you have a framework, or when you have a story, we all have a story to share, right? And all of our stories are important, because if you can change one person's life with your story, if you can make one person feel seen, heard, understood, supported through your words, isn't that worth it? I get really passionate about this stuff because it's so cool. And I see it every day working as a publisher. You know, our authors get these beautiful testimonials from people who have read their book, and it's literally changed the lives of people. It is magical, powerful, and such an incredible support system for your business growth, for your personal growth, and for your brand growth. So the final C is credibility. So we all know what credibility means, right? It's like, I wrote a book. I wrote the book on it, right? So automatically, when you tell someone you wrote a book, they're like, holy cow, like you know what you're talking about. They don't even ask what the book is about. Some people do, but usually they're like, whoa, you wrote a book. Okay, now you're up here in my opinion base, right? It's like the second you give them something, or like, I'm a podcast host, or I was on Oprah, or whatever that thing is, you go from like here to here in someone's mind. It's psychology. It's not a judgment thing. It's not like everyone's walking around being super judgmental. It's just psychology. As soon as somebody hears that you wrote a book, you go from here to here. So now they're listening, right? Whatever it is that your book is about, now they're listening to you as the thought leader, as the expert in whatever you wrote about, right? So if you wrote a book about a framework in how to launch a business, for example, I wrote a book. Here's my framework. It's a lead magnet. It's a lead generator. It was cathartic for you. Now you also, an added bonus is that as soon as you publish that work, it becomes copywritten. So now that framework or that tool or that piece that you've published is yours. So if somebody copies it, it becomes copyright infringement. So it becomes 100% yours without having to trademark it and go through the expensive process of all of that stuff. As soon as you publish something, it becomes yours. So it is a legacy. It is a tested and true thing that makes you the expert in your field, in your industry, in your business, in your brand, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're writing about. It's a very powerful process. So why your book or why your business needs a book is to add that thought leadership piece to what you're doing, because it instantly takes you from here to here with your clients, with your customers, with everyone that comes into your field, which is a huge, or like a massive network of people that you wouldn't have had access to before. So if you think of your business like a funnel, right? We all know the whole funnel analogy, but you think about it, it's like your funnel is here. Your customers are here. Your fans and like your people who are repeat customers are down in here, right? So your goal as a business owner is to get more people into here. How do you do that? Social media, sure. You know, collaborations, sure. Speaking engagements, sure. All of that is great, but how do you get more? Like the stats are like for every 500 people in this area, that creates 50 people down in here. So you need to get 5,000 people into here. How on earth do you get 5,000 people into that funnel? Well, a book is a really good start. That book is everywhere, right? And the more you promote this piece, this tangible thing that people can buy and hold on to, they're more privy to buy a $20 book and learn about your process and learn about who you are than they are a $500 course. But once they buy that book, they're in your funnel. Now they've had an introduction to you. Now they're spinning around in here, reading this book, going, wow, 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 wow. Okay, now I'm going to go buy the course. Now I'm going to go buy the program. Now I'm going to go hire this person as a coach. Now I'm going to go leverage whatever services they have because I'm obsessed with this book. Is all of that making sense and resonating? I'm fine to open it up to some questions if.
Yeah, I was going to say really quickly, Sabrina, one of the things that you're talking about really in that funnel is what I preach. It's relationship marketing. So people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And what I mentioned earlier is that this process has been very healing for me. And part of the reason it's been healing for me is because it's allowed me to be vulnerable, which is hard for most of us, right? To let our walls down and to let other people in. And I think when you do that, when you let your walls down and you let other people in to see a little part of you, that allows them to know that they can trust you, or it creates a space where they could possibly build trust. And so that in that way is how that funnel really gets started. They know a little bit about you, your background, what made you who you are. And then they're like, okay, well, how does she bring in the dollars? How can I be a part of this? So everything that you're saying is so true. And I just kind of wanted to tie it back to what we talk about in the group a lot of times is that relationship marketing. It doesn't always have to be buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. It can be, let me take 30 minutes and get to know you on a phone call, so that we can just connect at a heart level. And then from there, you know what I do, you know who I am. So I just wanted to kind of affirm what you just said.
Absolutely. And it's so important, like you said, the thing with a book in that scale is that, 200 people buy your book and they feel like they know you, even though you're not having 230-minute connection calls with people. These 200 people that bought your book feel like they know you on a cellular level because they've now heard your story. They've like gone deep into maybe post-trauma that you've overcome, or, all of these things. They feel like they really know you. I mean, how many of us feel like we know Brené Brown, or, I don't know, insert your favorite author, right? What's another one? Gabby Bernstein, or, these personal development nonfiction authors that offer so much. People aren't not buying things from them because they know everything, because they read their book. They're feeling so connected to them on this deep level because they know their story. Now they want to go and work with them and go to the conference, buy the tickets for their event, work with them on a coaching capacity, whatever that is. So I totally agree with you. A book really opens it up to just such a grander scale of that, because now you've got the credibility piece, you've got the vulnerability piece, and you've got this like literal piece of your heart and soul that everyone has access to. So while that feels a little scary, I totally understand that feeling very vulnerable and very like raw, but we work a lot with our authors, like when we start the process. And I think this is where some other publishers miss the mark. We start the process by working on your mindset, because mindset has to be the first piece. You really have to lock in those limiting beliefs, the limiting beliefs around not having enough time, your story not being worthy enough, you not being worthy enough. Like, who am I to become an author? I'm just insert your own limiting beliefs, right? So we really like lock in that strong mindset of I am an author and I have value to add to this world. Right. So we even have like different affirmations and things that we use with our authors to really lock in that mindset piece, because it is the first before writing. Writing can be edited. So if you're like, I'm a crappy writer, that's okay. As long as you're willing to be vulnerable and share your story, writing can be edited. Words can be edited and like moved around and placed differently. The important pieces are the mindset piece and your willingness to share your story, your vulnerability. Yeah, I'm just gonna look at some of these comments. Okay. Oh, Lynn, you're just so adorable. I love you. I get to step into being the author of my journal. Yay. Awesome. Yeah, I love it. Okay, I'm gonna open it up to questions because I'm sure people have them, and it might just like spark more conversation around what people are really like, what's really resonating, what people want to hear more of. Anybody? I'm an open book, like pun obviously intended, but I'm an open book. If you have any questions at all, ask away.
I'll just start off. Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I was just explaining, I'm traipsing around. I just want to say hi and celebrate you and thank you for, I'm not sure how I got invited or what I chose to do this, but this is exactly good timing. I'm trying to do way too much of my business and I love every single minute of it. My name is Joe Welch and I am an author for a chapter in Boss Latinas, the anthology, which is right now being, finalize and trying to get out onto the internet. So it will be my first, introduction into the world. So what you're saying speaks to me, especially as I'm defining myself, or I have defined myself, but as I'm really trying to ground myself in my business, I realized that at first I thought I was these individual things, but really looking that I am the brand. And so what you're saying speaks to me. The anthology is absolutely the point that you're making, which is that people get to know me. They kind of see how I think. It hasn't come out yet. So, I feel like kismet that I'm not ready yet. So it's kind of okay that the book isn't quite out on Amazon yet, because I'm hoping that that's what's going to happen, is that people will start to make those appointments and buy what I guess I'm selling, or get to know me better. So thank you so much for this. This is exciting to hear. And especially as a Latina, we need to get our stories out there. And I also work in the deaf community. And so I have a lot of friends where even I might be a conduit to create their anthologies to get their stories out. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, and the great part, so we also do collaborative works and anthologies and co-authored books. The most beautiful thing I found with those types of work are the collaboration, because now you have a sisterhood of all of these incredible humans that are working towards the same goal, which is to get this book out into the world and to get these messages out into the world. And you can leverage off of each other's communities, networks, successes in the most authentic and just juicy, divine way, right? It builds
I
this
like that,
sisterhood.
exactly.
Yeah, it feels so good. And I know that because we've launched, oh gosh, like probably a dozen collaborative books, and they're my favorite to launch because there's so much support and truly seeing like humans supporting humans in this really powerful way. It's like uplifting each other instead of like trying to push people down, which happens a lot in like, especially the female entrepreneur, or people who identify as female in the entrepreneur world. It's still very aggressive. It's like, oh, women supporting women, and oh, people supporting people. It often isn't the case, but I find with authors and creative entrepreneurs, it truly is like everyone's working towards the same goal. So I wish you the best of luck with your launch, and definitely like share away, and you'd be surprised how many people like truly deeply want to support authors, and people willing to share their story and be vulnerable. Awesome. Does anyone else have a question?
I have a quick question. Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
So I self-published a daily journal a few years ago, and I walked them through how to use it in the beginning. And I then also send them to my website, right? If they have questions, whatever. And then it also leads to my masterclass, which is the beginning of my funnel. My question is, since I self-published, can you also go to a publisher too? And I apologize because I was 8 minutes late, so you may have already talked about this.
Absolutely. So we actually have like, you can pitch publishers. The problem with traditional publishers is the process is so daunting, and there's so much rejection. And then like I mentioned before, I don't know if you were on yet, but they own the intellectual property. So you wouldn't be able to have your course, you wouldn't be able to create line extensions later on, like affirmation cards or whatever you want as, additions later on, because they own your work. You could, however, absolutely approach like a hybrid publisher or a blended publisher. And basically what they would do is take what you have, adjust it for marketability, and for depending on how many you've sold already, they would sort of evaluate that process and say, okay, here's why it's not selling, or here's why it's not selling as much as you'd like it to, and then they would sort of help you redesign it, and you would come out with like a 2.0 version, right? So it's like this new and improved. And the benefit to publishing with a publisher, and of course I'm biased, so like take that with a grain of salt, but the benefit to it is the community, the organic marketing piece, right? It's like, unfortunately, the statistics are like really horrible. Most self-published authors sell less than 100 books in their entire career. We sell like 300 to 400 books on launch day alone, right? It's because we have the momentum.
Yeah.
It's not because we have 10,000 followers or 20,000 followers on Instagram. It's because we have a community. It's because we have people who actually, I don't even know if I'm allowed to swear here, but they actually give a shit about what we're doing, about who we're supporting, right? It's like it feels like family. There's a familial power behind it where they're like, oh, this is my sister, or this is my brother. I'm going to like do this and help them get this out into the world. So you essentially have like a cheerleading squad that's there to help you. And that's absolutely, like Amber said, relationship marketing, like having other people, that's like proof is in the pudding, right? Social proof. If you have other people other than yourself, if you're just out there going, hey, buy my thing, it's good, I swear, right? But if you have other people saying, this is incredible, you need to get your hands on this, and this is why, then that is social proof. And people buy based on the opinions of others. 100% it happens, right? They base, like, sure, some people follow the energetic feeling they get. A handful of people will do that. Some people feel like drawn to something. Some people know you, right? So they're like, oh, I want to support you. Absolutely. But for the majority of buyers in the world, they buy based on other people telling them they need something.
Okay.
And if you can do that in an organic and authentic way where you're not paying a marketing or a sales team to do that, it's super powerful.
Yeah, I was going to add to really fast on that, Carmen. And sorry, Sabrina, if I'm stepping on you, but a lot of people think when they go to a traditional publisher that they're going to become a bestseller because the publisher has all this money to do marketing and whatnot. It doesn't happen unless you're like Kim Kardashian or something. They might send out a press release about you, or put out a couple social media posts, but that's really it. So I tell all my authors I work with, I love what Sabrina's doing. Like, this type of model is the best in my opinion. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. I didn't even pay her to say that. We just met today. I love it. No, but it's so true. Like, everyone thinks, like, I have authors who have left traditional publishers to come with us because of that supportive feeling, because they felt like a number. They felt like a number in a queue, and they weren't supported in the way they were promised. There's a lot of false promises, false hope, that kind of thing that happens in that world. And that's even if you sign with a traditional publisher. They read like hundreds of thousands of manuscripts a day, and it's hard. Like, it's really hard. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of work involved, because you need to maybe hire a literary agent, and then you need to, have a proposal and all that. Like, it's too hard. Why does it doesn't have to be that hard. And that's why I created what we do. Like, it's to put the ease and the genuine, like, I just get to write. I'm an author and I just get to write. I don't have to worry about all of the other stuff associated with the process. I just get to like create my art and create my work and be who I am, and not have to worry about like building my followers on social media or whatever. Right. So it's a much more supportive process. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Rebecca has her hand raised.
Hi.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this time to ask questions. And I also came in a little bit late. I apologize. I couldn't find the link, so it took me a minute. But anyway, could you talk a little bit about, like, I have a manuscript. I have my first book started. It's on its third edition, like third rewrite. But could you talk a little bit about how writing a book does help support your business? So I'm a business coach. I am an entrepreneur. I do a lot of group coaching and coaching small business owners. And my book is about leadership and leading your own life. And I'm really in this space of coaching people, especially women, to step into that place of knowing themselves very intimately and deeply, to gain clarity about who they are so that they can lead themselves really well. And then that also interprets you into being this really awesome, amazing, great leader, because you have this steadfast knowing of who you are and where you're coming from, and you have your own back, and then other people can trust you better. So there's a whole that's the whole aspect around the book, but it's also tying into what I do in my community and my group coaching and my leadership with these ladies. It's a lot about empowerment too, but can you just speak to that? Like, how does, I'm not quite tying the two together. The book obviously came to me and was speaking to me, so I got it all out on paper, but how can I tie that in?
I totally just got goosebumps, by the way. It's awesome.
Oh,
It sounds incredible. Okay. So books for coaches and service-based businesses are a no-brainer. And the reason being, okay, first of all, like you have so much, you're a wealth of knowledge, right? As a coach, like you have all of this information in you. So as you write it in your book, it becomes the framework for what you do. So you never feel derailed in your coaching business when you're like going, oh shit, what am I going to talk about today? Or it's like, no, this is my framework. And the second you publish it, I don't know if you were on yet when I mentioned this, but it's the second you publish it, it becomes copywritten material that you own. So you don't have to go through the process of like trademarking things and like the expensive legal bills and all of that. Because once you publish your book, it's yours. And if anyone copies it, it's copyright infringement and it's against the law, right? So you can actually like sue someone for copying your material. Whereas if you just have a course or a program, or like if somebody takes your coaching program and they're like, ooh, that was really good, I'm now going to go and do the exact same thing and call it the same thing and do the same thing. You can't do anything about it except maybe complain and like shame them on social media or something, right? But if you have a book, it's yours legally, and that becomes the framework for what you do. So think TED Talk. Now you have a TED Talk, right? Your book becomes everything that you speak about. It just sort of like crystallizes your framework, right? Because obviously if you're coaching, you have like your values, you have your pillars, you have your framework, you have your information. So it just sort of like crystallizes and clarifies all of that into a very concise, 200 page or 300 page book that gives people access to you. So maybe they're like, I'd really like to work with Rebecca, but I'm not ready to invest yet. Or I don't know if I'm ready to take the next step. Well, here's my book. That's $20. Anyone can afford $20, right? And we were saying earlier, it gives them that introduction to you, to like the real you, the vulnerable, like because we all share our personal stories in a business book. It's not just going to be like step one, it doesn't start there. It starts with who I am and why you need to read this book and why you need to hear this information from me, right? It just gives them a deeper look at who you are. And then as Amber was saying before, it builds that trust, even without having to do an hour-long discovery call, or without having to give them pro bono coaching to introduce them into the market, or without having to collect all these testimonials and, all the stuff. It just brings people into your world at such a grander level because it reaches more people that you would never ever be able to reach, regardless of like how big your network is. There's people who will buy your book in different countries. There are people who will buy your book all over the world and have access to that information, and that's their introduction to you. So I always say for my business leaders and authors to have a call to action page in their book that says, for more of this, like go to my website, take my course, check out my podcast, like whatever it is, so they know where to go next. Because now they have this beautiful book. One of our authors, Elena Ray, she's a 7-figure business mentor, and she lives in Bali. We'll sign up for her very high level mastermind. It's like a $40,000 mastermind, and from her book, because they're like, oh, I just had to work with you. I have to work with you because everything you said in your book was amazing. But it's not enough, right? It's that introduction piece that like ties it all together.
Cool. Yeah. Could you also talk a little bit about like social proof and like what's this? So I get that there's like also this psychology behind having a book and then saying, it gives you this posture of, well, I'm an author, and that somehow translate to someone, oh, she there's more to her, or there's more to that business. Or can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, 100%, because that's everything, right? It's that credibility piece. So
yeah,
and I don't know if you were on yet, but I did talk about it a bit earlier, but it's like being a coach, having a podcast, here you are, right? Oh, I did a TED Talk. Ooh, now here you are. But I literally wrote the book on it. right? Like it just skyrockets your credibility. And having like, this isn't a real book, but having like a physical, tangible thing that people can hold in their hands. If you're speaking at a conference and you're putting one of your books in the swag bag, like the psychology of like this $20 thing, it's something you can hold in your hands though, right? If people go to see you speak at a conference and there's nothing tangible for them to buy, they take 10 pages of notes, they go home super excited, and then they never integrate the information. This notebook that they wrote all these things in ends up on the shelf collecting dust for the next 10 years of their life. And then they'll remember something. They're like, oh yeah, that conference, I remember that. But they don't integrate it. Whereas if they have a book, something they can like highlight and, you know, like write in and read over and over again and go back to, it's a tangible tool that becomes like part of their integration process for your coaching methodologies, right? It's something that they can actually physically do. And as people, like some people like audiobooks better, some people like ebooks better. Like you can have all of that as part of it, right? Like you can have it available in all different formats, but the physical tangible book that you can gift to your new clients, right? Oh, you joined my new program. Here's my book. This is where you should start. Right. And then vice versa. It's like somebody buys your book and it's like, okay, now I'm ready to join your coaching program because like, I really love what you said in your book. That really called to me or spoke to me. So yeah, it's a huge credibility piece, but it's the psychology of having something tangible to walk away with, to hold.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I also need information on how to get a hold of you to get published.
Yeah, sure. I think Amber will probably share all of that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Awesome. So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry, duh.
There.
Rookie mistake, huh? I have about 36,000 words in my manuscript done so far for one of my books, but I put it on the shelf right now only because I've been going back and forth between making it fiction and nonfiction because it's based on my story. And that because of the legalities of the real life people. So what do you have any advice for people who are
1,000%, because that's what we specialize in. So it's called nonfiction narrative. So what you do is on either the copyright page or like an information page in the book, you say the characters and some situations have been altered for the protection and safety of the people involved. You use pseudonyms. So you don't use real names of the people. So they become characters essentially, but it is still defined as nonfiction because it's based off of a story.
Okay.
So like in my book, for example, I combine like 4 people from my youth into one character. So the stories are they're true. These are things that actually happen, but not happen to one individual person. It's like things that happen to 4 different people, but I combine them into one character. Yeah. So you just have to put somewhere in there so you don't have a James Frey incident. Do you remember when James Frey wrote his memoir and a lot of it was actual fiction, and he was on Oprah and it was all this big fiasco. So you just have to make sure you're identifying it and making it clear to the reader that you have altered some of the situations. And you can also say things like, this is based on my best memory, right? Like we're human. We forget things like change, you know, it's like, there's actual chemical proof in psychology that like your brain changes past situations because of trauma or whatever it is. So as long as you're being really transparent with your readership that, you know, some of this has been altered or changed for the protection and safety of others, it's no problem.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say go fiction unless you're talking about like, you know, aliens or just like situations that like maybe are less true than like there's no proof of certain situations, then you might want to turn it into fiction. But if these are true stories that actually happened, you are allowed to alter them and make them, because it's your book, right? Like you're allowed to write that from a place of you being the lead character and these other characters being based off of other people that you know, but you don't want to put it so that someone would be like, you want to be like, my ex-husband did this, and now, you know, he was abusive and this and that. And it's like, we can't publish that. Anything that's defaming of anyone's character, you can't publish that. So we often,
and that's where my issue has been, is because it would be a whole lot of that.
well, and we also, like, this is a whole other like masterclass, so I won't go into it too deeply, but we do something called writing from the scar, not from the wound. So most nonfiction narrative books are written to inspire, empower, educate, or motivate. So if you're just whining about your past, nobody actually cares about that. You're creating the story, the build, the climax, the characters in the story by sharing little pieces, but then you're writing about the transformation.
Right.
Who did you become in that process? You know, you're not whining or complaining about somebody else. The book is not about them. So it shouldn't be a situation of this is going to be a legal problem or this is going to be that, because you're writing about you. You're writing about your experience. You're writing about your transformation. You're writing about your energy and your lessons learned and all of that. It's a process, though. Here's the catharsis.
Well, which is why I've worked on it for, I don't know, 8 years now, and I'm 36,000 words in, because I'm just, some parts I'm like, I'm not ready. So, but it's okay. When I get ready to finish it, I will have to come over to you, but I've got another book in mind first. So
I'll let Amber share with you. We actually, both Lynn and Amber are in our author generator program. It's essentially a mastermind for emerging authors. It's a safe space, a safe container for authors to write their manuscript. It's not a publishing program. It's not a marketing program. Although we have a lot of resources and guest coaches that come in and talk about that. It's really just a 6-month program for you to write your book with support, with accountability, with amazing resources on mindset, writing, editing, publishing, marketing, branding, like all of it's in there. But it's really, the focus is about writing your book with that accountability really cool. And support. Yeah. So I'll let Amber share all of that with everyone later, but it really is a special space that I also built out of necessity, because my authors were coming to me saying, this process feels so lonely. Like I feel like a raw nerve ending and I'm just out there like thrusting myself and my soul into the world. And it's like, oh no, honey, let's make this an enjoyable experience. And, you know, I always take feedback as information, and I apply that information into something that's tangible for people to make this experience, to make writing and publishing more accessible. Awesome. Because it feels so vast, because it's like worse than a rabbit hole. It's like a whale hole. It's like just so much information. You can't, like, it's never ending. So it's super important
it's a big task. It is. So you need a team for sure.
Lynn says, I'm still shocked at how enjoyable and smooth this process is. So good and so necessary for me in this moment in my life. Yeah. Writers should be able to focus on writing, right? Not the rest of it, not the legal side of it, not the editing side of it, not the production side of it or the publishing side. Like, writers should be able to write creatively with support, guidance, feedback, all of the beautiful things that come along with this process in a safe space where they can share things like what their actual story is and how to do that from the scar, not the wound. Okay.
Awesome. No, you're good. Thank you so much, Sabrina. What I would love for you to do, just take a minute or so to talk about the difference between Author Generator Society and actually going through publishing with you. If you can just talk a little bit about that difference. Right.
So the publishing process, the investment's much higher because you're investing in a 5-tier editorial process, our full editorial team, our design team, all the publishing backend stuff like metadata creation and ISBN acquisition and the legality stuff and all the blah, the stuff that drives people crazy when they start digging for information. The Author Generator Society is really just, it's a program to write. Yes, we have guest coaches that come in and, they talk about different aspects of the process. So like publishing and marketing and branding. And we even have done like human design for creativity and Enneagram type, like your personality type for writing, like so much. There's like such a knowledge base of all of these amazing masterclasses in the portal for people. And we do that. So every other week we have a guest coach come in and share their knowledge and wisdom. A lot of them are now published authors, are now best-selling authors. So people who've been through the process. And it's such a powerful container. And then every other week to that, we actually co-write. So even if you're a busy entrepreneur, a busy mom, whatever your schedule is, if you block in that time, it's 2 hours every other week. And if you write, a couple thousand words during that time, you're going to get your book done in this 6 months, right? That's the whole purpose, is to get your book, your manuscript written. The publishing is something that you can then upgrade to if you choose. So we do have a new cohort of author generators starting in September, and it's going to be so amazing. We've got, I think there's 52 people in there now, of which about 20 of them are going to be super active because they're in the process of writing their books right now, and some publishing with us already. So if you choose to publish with us, Author Generator is included in your publishing package. If you choose to start with Author Generator and upgrade later, we remove the Author Generator fee from your publishing package. So there's lots of ways to join our community, to be part of it all. I'm also launching a course. It's the Author Generator. So it's a lot of the same content without the community, without the support. It's just the module-based information in September as well, called the Author Generator Academy. So lots of ways to connect. I'm also hosting a retreat if anyone's in Canada. I don't know where everyone's located, but I'm hosting a retreat in September that there's still one spot open for, an in-person live writing retreat. So lots to think about. Okay, what am I seeing over here? So fascinating human design. What's 3-2? Oh, 3-2 is your lines, but you're either, like, I'm a 3-5 sacral generator is my human design. But it's fun to dig into if you haven't yet. Okay, that's for another day though. That's a whole other yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sabrina. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so grateful for you taking the time to speak with everyone. I will definitely be dropping the links and sending out an email to let people know how they can sign up for Author Generator Society, to be published, all of that. So look for that in the Facebook group, in our events, and in your email if you're on the list. Thank you to everyone who took the time to show up for Sabrina, and most importantly for yourself. Like, this is such a huge undertaking, and this is the first step towards really saying yes to yourself and stepping out and making yourself very visible to a world who needs to see and hear you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So nice.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.